Today's episode's brought to you by Bracketology.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. Wild weekend, wrapping up qualifiers for the Summer Showdown. Very excited about some of the matchups we've got here coming up.
Yeah, excited about some, depressed about others. It's systemic, potentially systemic issues ranging from all the way from the top down to the bottom for others. Me being upset about the whole mix of it is there. But
we're running the gamut of emotions today on the episode. That's
the full gamut. Although I don't know if I'm happy about anything, but that's fine. Before we get to that, got some housekeeping. Of course, Blackwatch Report continuing on covering the Tier 2 scene, contenders, Tier 3, Tier 5, Tier 78. Someone is an up-and-comer in Overwatch and they're playing in some form of competitive event, Blackwatch Report is the place to find out about it. Make sure you're following them in their feed, on their channels, all of that stuff.
If you're not sure if you should misspell report when looking for them somewhere, just message Thornrain in Discord and he'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, he will certainly point you in the right direction. And of course, shout outs to our executive producer, Bungee Bamboo, who support us over at patreon.com/highnoonpodcast. You can do the same if you'd like. It really does help out the show as well. And if, you don't want to do that, that's not a problem at all. You can join the High Noon Podcast Discord at discord.me/highnoonpodcast. Still the best place to be for your Overwatch community Discord, and just it's more than just about, it's just the family there is, it's just a great place to be. So discord.me/highnoonpodcast. So Death, anything fun and exciting happening for you over the week?
Over the week? No, I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum last week, so we won't go too deep into it.
Right.
But just doing a lot of my streaming stuff and having a lot of fun with Sea of Thieves. So if you guys are at all interested in that, be sure to check it out.
Yep. No need to reiterate to go to twitch.tv/deathblowttv or YouTube deathblowttv. None of that. Don't need it. Don't need to reiterate that. You can just go to Discord.
I'm not even very close to getting affiliate, so stopping by wouldn't help very much.
It wouldn't help at all. So make sure you don't do that. Make sure you don't go to twitch.tv/deathblowttv. For me, still doing all the same stuff, casting Legends of Runeterra consistently now on Fridays for Giant Slayer, which is cool, and just streaming intermittently and all that good stuff. All the fun things. Podcast, streaming, all that good stuff. Enough about me. It's not. No. That's
how I felt for 2 weeks now. So
yeah.
I hear you.
But enough about me as I continue to talk about myself. So I would press the high news button, but we've got none. We still got what, 1 or 2 weeks before signing deadline.
I don't remember the exact date for
July
since
something.
they moved. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. I think they'll get through this tournament and maybe have another brief window before either the next one or whatever exactly is going on.
Right.
But yeah, I think by the time of the next tournament, we should be wrapped up as far as those go. So time for another wave of them for sure. But 2 weeks ago, we said to expect a wave. And then last week, we kind of had that wave, I think.
Right.
So I don't know of any more. I mean, kind of looking at the teams, there's obviously teams with some issues and some potential, holes and things that could try to fill. But it's such a weird environment for all businesses right now.
True.
And how everything's hitting their balance books, we don't have any idea. I was a little surprised at how much we did see, considering that was a very relevant factor in a lot of their decision making. But I don't know, we'll keep our eyes open, and if anything does happen, we'll be sure to let you know.
Absolutely. Of course, Discord is the best place for that because we've got Monkey Prince and the other folks in the Discord that are they're just posting everything that happens, like it's kind of eerie. It's almost before it happens it's like Monkey Prince is in the Discord puppet mastering and causing the news to happen.
We've got our own leak boy.
Yeah, we do. We do. Absolutely. Maybe Monkey Prince knows what happened to Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah, I haven't asked. We should.
That's dumb. Definitely should have asked. That's something that will probably only be relevant for another couple of days, so might as well bring it up. Okay, let's move on here to It's Tournament Talk. Starting off on Saturday, we had the Guangzhou Charge win 3-1 versus the Chengdu Hunters in the Asia region. Shanghai Dragons winning 3-1 versus Seoul, and London Spitfire winning 3-0 versus Hangzhou Spark. Moving into North America, Florida Mayhem wins 3-2 versus the Houston Outlaws. Dallas Fuel wins 3-0 versus the Toronto Defiant. Vancouver Titans wins 3-0 versus the Boston Uprising. LA Gladiators win 3-1 versus the Washington Justice. Moving on to Sunday, Shanghai Dragons take out Hangzhou 3-0. Seoul defeats Chengdu Hunters 3-0. Guangzhou ekes out NYXL 3-2. I had to spit that out. It makes me sick to my stomach. Paris Eternal in the NA region win 3-1 over the LA Valiant. Atlanta Reign win 3-0 versus the Vancouver Titans. San Francisco Shock pick up the dub 3-0 versus Philly Fusion. And the Washington Justice win 3-1 versus the Boston Uprising. Death Blow. I know there's a number of matches here that stuck out to you, and we hinted at some of the maybe issues in our not quite our hometown, but basically our hometown team in Toronto. So let's start with them.
Man, it's just rough. Dallas ran the same lineup as they did last week, and granted the circumstances were very different. They didn't have Decay, it was Onigod instead. This time around, though, it was on the Genji patch that we talked about last episode as probably being what the active patch would be. We were right about that. And yeah, that really opened things up for Dallas quite a bit. That allowed them to put Doha on the Genji. His level of Genji performance is honestly not super far off of like what Decay's Tracer is at times. And that's something we saw earlier in the year, right? Until very, very recently with the resurgence of Tracer coming up and being played again. It wasn't about how Decay was nuts. It was about how the DPS duo was nuts. Yep. And one of them was always popping off and finding a way. And this week, the hero pool, the patch, the everything really allowed Doha to kind of step up and fill in that role that Decay left vacant by leaving of the hard carry position. So that really, I think, helped them tremendously. But we can't discount the ineptitude of the Toronto Defiant to field their best roster. It's at the end of the day, they're back to benching Surefour. It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make sense when it was only for the Koth maps and map 1 earlier in the year. It didn't make sense 3 weeks ago when he was never playing. It didn't make sense this week when he was never playing. The only thing to do is to play Surefour 100% of the time. I don't know where this decision is coming from.
Right.
I have to think it's not Surefour needing a break, right? He played 1 week after he just came back from a long break.
Right.
We also have breaks built in now in between the tournaments where there's 2 weeks off after every tournament, because God forbid they play back to weekends or matches and back-to-back weekends for more than a month. It's just not allowed. So very, very frustrating as a Toronto fan. I put the blame on the coaching staff. I put the blame on the front office, the decision makers. We don't know where the decision's coming from, but somewhere along the line, somebody is putting a stamp on or saying it's okay not to play your star player, the only one that can kind of stand up and pop off and really carry you through what you've got going on. Logix is solid. Don't get me wrong. His Tracer's been pretty good. His other hit scan's really good. I watched him play Hanzo this weekend, Blevins, and I was ready to flip out and just tear my hair out. It was insane. what is he doing out there? It just doesn't make sense. If you want the Tracer Ash composition, it should be Surefour and Logics. If you want the Tracer Genji, it should be Surefour and Agilities. There's just never a circumstance where benching the man makes sense and is okay. This is when Houston decided to do it early on in stage 1 of season 1 with Linkser, when he was hands down their best player. We see it all the time. Teams never learn from it. I don't know where this is coming from. If Surefour doesn't want to play, then cut him, and you need to go find somebody that can. If you don't want him to play, fire that coach or fire that general manager. It's making this decision and looking at it. Listen, there's like, 2 heroes that this guy can't play? He's got to be the best at every DPS hero on the roster outside of probably Doomfist, maybe Genji. I really haven't seen a ton of Surefour Genji to really say definitively, but I've seen him bounce around and play every hero, every DPS hero at the highest level. It's like a budget Prophet. Prophet plays everything top 2, top 3 in the league, right? Like every single hero. Surefour is not that, but it's like top 7, top 10 on every single hero in the game. So why in God's name are you benching him? It doesn't make any sense. You're embarrassing yourself, and it's just really, really hard to watch as a fan. Somebody that it's the only jersey that I own that I can wear, and I'm like, well, I don't want to, but I don't have a choice. It's really rough, and I am really, really sick of watching it. Like, we kind of knew, seeing what the roster moves they were making were, that they were a little bit leaning on the marketability of their team. They wanted to get the best Canadian players they could and kind of build around that. Now their team's like half British. They don't even seem to be following their own mantra of like, well, we want to be the Canadian team and field the Canadian players. They cut Mangachu, which is fine. I don't think it necessarily is a big deal. We went to coaching or something.
Yeah, I think he's coaching staff.
Something like that. But like they've lost their entire identity, and their entire identity should be like, we're here to support Surefour because the man's a beast. And instead they're just benching him. I cannot, like I said, I just cannot wrap my head around it. I cannot see the logic behind these decisions. And it's really, really tough as a fan to get excited to watch their matches. I firmly believe, after watching Vancouver 3-0 this Dallas Fuel team, same exact roster 1 week ago, and then watching Toronto get 0-3'd by them, I firmly believe they're the worst team in the Overwatch League right now. It's really tough to say. Boston is still in this league, and I want, in every bit of my heart and every bit of my being, wants to call Boston the worst team in the league. They're not even in the tournament anymore. They already got knocked out. But I just can't buy into that at the moment, because just watching Toronto shoot themselves in the foot tells me talent doesn't matter for this team, because they just can't get it together and get out of their own way. They're tripping out of the starting blocks every single match. It's rough.
Yeah, it's like, what? Let's think through a couple of possible scenarios. One, Surefour doesn't want to play. He's burnt out. He just doesn't want to play anymore. Okay. Like you said, Death, get him out. Cut him, trade him, whatever. I mean, if he doesn't want to play, then, whatever.
Probably not going to be able to trade him.
Not going to be able to trade him, but like something. Because he's taking up space. He's taking up, roster. He's taking up, cap space, whatever. I mean, maybe they're just like screwed over because of contract stuff. I don't know. I don't know any of the logistics of that, but it's like, you have him there. It doesn't make sense to have him on the team and like still field him from time to time, but then bench him. It just makes no sense, and I just don't.
We saw this in his time at the Gladiators early on. There was a Tracer player that they wanted to use. His name was Asher, and he would get randomly started early on in their kind of existence as a team, when it was a surefire Tracer spot, and it didn't work out for them. Eventually Asher ended up going to Toronto, and then he didn't play there either. And so now they've got Surefour there, and they're just like making the same mistakes over and over again. Maybe if Surefour doesn't want to play, maybe he's being stressed out by the decision to bench him at any given time when he knows he's head and shoulders the best player on the team. That's got to be pretty annoying and pretty frustrating. I miss when I had confidence in this team's coaching staff, Blevins, is what I miss. And now we're mid-season, they're making replacements partway through, and that's a really tough spot to be in. But this to me feels like such a level 1 decision that if me or you could take over the head coaching job of the team, and make the decision and get it right, and like the first day make the team better by just making him play at all times.
Let's not overthink this. Keep it simple, stupid.
It really, really is frustrating to me as a fan to sit here and watch this. I know it's a popular refrain with everybody thinks they know better than the coach and all these things, but like, I really think it is just that easy. Not that this team would suddenly become great, and there'd be its own frustrations to be like a bottom middle of the pack team, but like if you can just, it's like how mad were Dallas fans when they didn't field Decay and got stomped by Vancouver, right? Like it's because you had the ability to just field a roster that made you at bare minimum competitive, if not favorites, if not almost a lock to win 3-0, and you just don't do it. That's it's unbearable. It's really, really hard to watch.
How often, maybe we have seen it and we just don't notice it. I mean, the only time I can think of, I'm sure it's happened more, but the time that sticks out the most of like the coaching staff made what we would consider as, you know, either us specifically or the community, a like way out of left field choice that was like, you're starting someone who we don't think should be starting at all, and they just like super overperform and then become a mainstay, is EQO in season 1. That's the time where it was like, oh, you're not playing Shadowburn, you're playing this other guy, EQO. Like, who in the world is this? And then he just pops off and is a mainstay for the rest of the season, right? Like, that's when it pays off. But I mean, how many times have we seen, like, just play Fleta, stupid. Just play Jae-Hong at support. It's not that hard.
Analogy, they played Carpe. And like Surefour's the Carpe in this scenario, and then it's the second person. It's the Zeke guy that, you know, is he would be like the EQO, hop in and hop off alongside of him. So this is even more egregious than something like that worked out for Philly, but like would have been if EQO had showed up and really underperformed, it would have looked really, really bad for Philly. They'd have caught a lot of flack for that. But yeah, it's just
my whole thing is you've got Surefour as like the linchpin of the team, clearly the best player on the team, at least optically. So and who is going to think otherwise? Why would we as the fans think otherwise? So either you need to just be playing him and like building that, or there needs to be like, this is a point in time where it's like the fans want an answer. Otherwise, like you said, Death, it's just like, I just don't even want to watch the matches. Like it's such a hard thing to watch your team shoot themselves in the foot when they have the I was trying to think of an analogy that went with shoot yourself in the foot, but it's like you have the ability to not do that. It's like there's a
own Kevlar boots, but they still shot themselves.
Well, there was this old commercial, or it was a parody trailer for a movie, and the movie was called Shark in the Pool. And there's a pool party and there's a shark in the pool and everyone's freaking out, and there's a guy just walking around like casually, just like just get out of the pool. Just don't be in the pool. And everyone's like, oh my God, there's a shark at the pool. It's like, just don't go in the pool. It's like, oh my God, we're losing. We can't field a roster. It's like, just play Surefour. Why? How can we do this? We don't have an adequate DPS player. What are we gonna do? It's like, just he's right there. He's right there.
Point, the season's going so poorly. If you're fielding them all in scrims and you honestly think that he's the odd man out, that he's the third best player, it's going so poorly, and I gotta think it's about 100% of your fan base that feels this way. Let us see it.
Right.
Like I'm like, don't ask me to trust you.
Or cut him.
You've never been a super success. Yeah, make the definitive statement and let him go.
Or at least a statement of some sort.
Field him for a couple weeks and let us see that he's not what he was before, or something like that. But this guy's been at the forefront of competitive Overwatch almost the entire time that competitive Overwatch has been a thing. So it's a really, really tough thing to swallow. Just, oh yeah, clearly he doesn't have it anymore or whatever. Until I see it, till I see some evidence of it. I think he even popped in for their 3-0 win over Vancouver, right? Like they barely squeaked by Vancouver in the
May Melee
13th place game for the May Melee, right? They 3-2, barely get by that. Come out their first qualification match against Vancouver, they stomp them 3-0.
Right.
Why? Surefour was in. Like, that was the difference. It was obvious. And I don't remember if Surefour played for Atlanta, but let's say he played all 3 maps and they got 3-0'd by Atlanta. Fine. You know, that team is absurdly talented, at least at their highest levels, right? When they get it together, when they put it all together, they're super good. I can understand that, but then you're just back to not playing. I mean, honestly, I don't think he played in that match against Atlanta either.
Like, I just don't.
He did.
I don't understand the mentality of like, oh well, you know, this player needs a break or this player needs a rest. We've talked ad nauseum about how it's like we don't buy that, but even if we did buy that, like, we need something, because the benching of Surefour, it just we're beating a dead horse at this point, but it just doesn't make any sense, and there's no.
I just want to hit the team with a rolled up newspaper.
Yeah, no. I just want to be like, what is going on, and why would this ever be the line that you take? And if there's a reason, if there is, even if there's any sort of reason, I just want to know what it is. It's just, I don't know. But Death, let's move on. I'm getting sick talking about this.
Anger issues today for me too. So
yeah, I'm not even talking about New York. I don't want to talk about it.
I'll talk about it.
Well, let's talk about something positive. Houston Outlaws lost 3-2 versus the Florida Mayhem.
Sure.
Okay, it was a joke there, but it was a good match, Death. Let's talk about that.
It was a really good match, and it felt a lot to me like a continuation of Houston's kind of redemption arc here, like a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Florida is now for 2 months straight been a top performing team, beating some really quality opponents. They get the first 2 maps against Houston. Houston rallies back, gets the next 2 maps, going into the reverse sweep in map 5. And that was really the first time Houston looked a little out of their depth. According to Dante, they didn't really scrim on that map too much in the week, or really at all, I think he said. So there was a little bit of gap in their preparation for the match, and it came back to bite them. But honestly, watching that, like, Linkzer's playing really, really well on the roles he's being asked to play. Dante's always a beast, and the meta favors him being able to play the Tracer. We saw a lot of, like, Sombra from the Asia region as well, which I didn't see from the NA region at all, really. So there's some opportunities for him to go there. I think the one issue for Houston in this meta is really, 2 things. It's a little goofy for them with their supports, how they've been using them. I'm not sure I'm wholly convinced that so much Repel/Raucous is like the answer. I think Jexay is nuts, and I kind of want him to handle the Brig. So if you're going to be playing Brig, I almost feel like it should probably be Jexay there. But we'll see if they make any adjustments as far as that's concerned going into this next week. But the other area is Genji, and it's not that they don't have one. It's just that I've not really seen it yet. You know, Linkzer's got the ability to pull it out. Back in the day, he used to be very, very good at it, at least comparatively. That stopped being the case in Overwatch League Season 1. It didn't look quite as good. It was still there. I think it's serviceable, right? If they were like playing an Ash map and they wanted him in and then they needed to switch, I think it's good enough he can hold it together and see if that comp will work for him. But I really, need to see it more from Blase, I think, to really buy into them, like, being stacked in this particular meta. And there is a good amount of Genji seeing play. I don't think it's needed, right? I think you can make do with the Tracers and the Echoes in those compositions. So Houston should be fine there. But what's, I think, most interesting here is that Florida chose Houston in the run back. So we get this matchup again this upcoming weekend on Friday. I think it's like 5 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know. I don't know if the time zone was correct when I was looking at it or not.
I never know. They say it's always local time, but I never trust that.
So, and sometimes you're like not logged in on the website or something like that. It's a little weird. So yeah, I apologize. I don't have the exact time of that upcoming matchup. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That was a great, super close match. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that again. Win, lose, or draw as a Houston fan, you know what I mean? That matchup tells a lot, and staying close, going to 5 against that team right now, the way they've been playing is a heck of an accomplishment. Hopefully it's a small gap they need to overcome too, right? The first map they lost, I don't remember them as being really lopsided either. They just lost a couple close ones. I remember saying at halftime, this kind of looks like what I thought it was going to be, like a really close match that gets lost because they are not fortunate enough to have Chris playing Lucio. Like, he gets to play the brig, so he's not as big of a problem for them. And yeah, then they even like managed to come back and keep it super close. So it's going to be really interesting. I think maps will play a big part in this, and the tournament structure has them like loser picks, right? So you're going to get to see Houston choose to go to some better maps for them, maybe in some situations where they lost previously in this matchup, and it could be an interesting wrinkle that makes it even more hotly contested, and it was already about as well contested as it could be. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see that. And I just think the Yaki versus Dante matchup is so great. Like, they're two tracers performing at a really, really high level right now. So I'm really excited to get the opportunity to see them go at it again. A lot of fun.
And wasn't Dante saying that they didn't even scrim on the map 5 map?
Yeah, they like hadn't touched it all week. So I don't know. That's not really like an excuse, because it just says like your prep kind of sucked and you really left yourself because of weakness in your prep. But it does, I mean, make sense to why that map they looked worse than all the other ones, right? Because they just hadn't been on it in a while. Didn't have a set plan.
Yeah, it seems very weird that they would have made that choice, or not made that choice to do that. Right. So yeah, no, definitely cool to like have Florida be like, yeah, you know what? It was close, but we took it before. We know them. I mean, I guess it's more you want to deal with the demons versus the ones you don't know, right? If you just came off a win, even if it was close. So I don't know. If you're Florida here, are you picking Houston again?
No, I think to choose an opponent like that's not, I think the only way I would approach these things is like the boring way, the uninteresting way for the fans. I would just pick the lowest seeded team. I'm not about tempting fate. I'm not about calling somebody out. I'm not about giving them a rallying cry. I would pick it the way that the bracket would put me there if it was a normal bracket. And as a fan, I love them. I love that it gives the teams the ability to call somebody out. But if I'm running the team, that's just not, I wouldn't feed into that madness, right? Like I can go through the season just being even keeled and go, no, if we're the 2 seed, we're supposed to play against the 7 seed. So I'll take the 7 seed. Let's go.
I mean, I would try to take the 8 seed, but
well, you take the lowest seed possible, right? You let the seedings kind of dictate it, and then it's just, listen, it's not. We're focused on our game. We play our brand of Overwatch. If people want to come, they can beat us at that sort of a thing. But at the end of the day, though, that's not how a lot of these teams operate. And when you call that shot and you get it right, it is a big momentum boost, right? So they came out and said, we should have 3-0'd them last time. We're going to 3-0 them this time. If they come out and 3-0 them, I'll bet you those 6 players feel invincible, like they can't be beat. And they
sports magic.
So there's definitely 2 sides to it. I'm not saying that I think they made a wrong choice by running it back. It's just, you asked me how I would handle it, and mine would be to just pick the lowest seed available for it. Yeah. It's just, but
not saying it's wrong, but it is objectively incorrect. Okay, Death, run us through New York. Unless there's another match that you want to talk about instead.
There are other matches, but none I want to talk about more than New York. That's for sure. So New York was kind of an interesting one. This was the Asia region matchup that I watched the most closely this week. Obviously, the 3-2 scoreline makes it pretty exciting, and the region didn't have the most hotly contested matchups overall across the board outside this one. This one was a bit of a weird one. This was like trading like there's 5 mappers that are like, it's crazy close, everything. This was like trading haymakers back and forth more than it was anything else. So decisive maps versus decisive maps. I think New York is a little bit onto something here. I know it's a little tough to watch, Blevins, when your team loses and they do something maybe a little outside the box, but they fielded Haxall on their support line this week, and I kind of liked that choice, oddly enough, just because Haxall was the rookie of the year last year, playing the Brig and Goats,
Right.
and probably just has a better understanding of the character than the main supports who were playing Lucio during Goats last year have. But you did then like see him switch into DPS and pop off on the Genji, so you kind of want him to pop off on the Genji more. But
just need two Haksals.
Why? Right, you kind of do have them, right? You have Who Are You and you have Haksals. You kind of do have them, but it was Libero instead of Who Are You, and so it's just a little weird. And I don't know. To me, look, Libero's very good. Having somebody like him around is fine, and really good for a team. It gives you some meta-proofness, because that's definitely a word, meta-proofness that other players don't give you, but they don't use him like San Francisco uses Rascal to like fill all those gaps, and it just doesn't work the same. And it's maybe because he's not quite that level of play on all those heroes as Rascal, so they can't quite get away with it. But personally, I'm kind of over the Libero experiment, unless you very specifically get into a May meta. But even then, I want to see Haksal do it before I want to see Libero give another shot.
I agree. I'm
a little over Libero as a player on this roster at the moment. I liked another thing, they like brought in SBB the first time he saw the stage all game was map 5. What?
Yeah, bring the guy in completely cold into the most important map. It's like,
if you're using him for something, use him for something. Don't use him. You don't pull in your cold captain. Like he's not your captain if he's not there for the first 4 maps. Let's just be real about that. And so bringing him in cold in that situation felt a little weird. But all things considered, there was some shakeups for New York. They had some differences. They're working through them, and I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Even though there's a couple losses stacking up here, that like maybe they're going to get to an evolved version of themselves. It's certainly in the cards. The talent on the roster hasn't gone down by any means. We're getting back to some Zenyatta play, which should hopefully let Jonak shine. But it's still, at the end of the day, this is another L, right? So a different kind of a look from New York, but staying kind of above upper middle pack isn't what this team wants to be. So you need to experience some growing pains, have a couple bumps in order to come out the other side stronger. And I think for the time being, I'm comfortable saying that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, I just need to get more used to these random losses. It still hurts every single time. But I do agree. I do agree on a couple of points. I think progress is being made. I also I'm over Libero. Like it's one of those things that you look at and theoretically it's like, oh, Libero can play anything. Okay, let's just field him and whatever. But it's like, let's actually look at the specific metas and the specific champions. If it's these, we can run Haksal, Who Are You? If it's these, we can run and like I don't know if Libero ever actually gets in. He can play everything, but he doesn't play it better than the other players on the team. So it would need to be some very specific, like May Hanzo, maybe. I don't know what the meta would need for Libero to be the best option. I think it's like a hedge, and I mean, right now the opponents in the Asia region, you can't you need to be at the top of your game at all time against basically every single one of the opponents, with the exception of maybe Chengdu, maybe. And I mean, Hangzhou is also not looking too great right now either. But it's tough. But I do I just need to get over it. I need to get over it because I do think that they're actually making improvements. I mean, I think unlike Seoul, where it just felt like random heroes were coming out and we're playing random players on, this feels different.
Method to the madness for sure.
At least feels like that.
Remember, this is a first-year head coach. You look at the improvements Houston is starting to see, right? Under their first-year head coach, he's finally starting to get his act together a little bit and starting to get them well prepared and showing up with strats and plans and team cohesion. And it does take time for that. And New York started at a higher plane than Houston did. So maybe it's harder to see that growth, but I think it's coming. But on the flip side, I mean, this wasn't even a full strength Guangzhou.
Right.
Right. They're without Nero at the moment. I think he's having some like visa issues or something like that. Like his expired while he was there mid-season, needed to get it re-upped or so. That was at least the case a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know exactly what's going on there. But either way, you know, they were like trying to play some characters that are squarely Nero territory,
Right.
without him there and still finding some success. So it's on paper, I think it looks better for New York maybe this match than it was as well because of that. But at the end of the day, it was really close. Guangzhou's been playing really, really well. So going to 5 against another team again, it's funny how the narrative of it changes, right? Like it's Houston from the bottom end of the bracket. You know, you're talking about going to 5, being a competitive against the top end team in the region, and you're like, oh, that's great. This is what we wanted to see. When it's New York, it's like, this is terrible. How are we getting through it? It's just, but realistically, I mean, with the changes, with everything going on, it's probably the same thing, right? Like it's not a detriment. It's not a massive warning sign or, you know, it's something to be nervous about. It's just the way that match turned out on that day. Right. So, yeah, I think all things considered, they should be fine.
Yeah. I think so as well. Okay, Death. What was there any other one, maybe one match that jumped out as one that you really wanted to dive into?
Not really dive into, but a couple I maybe on the surface want to just brush over real fast. What happened to Hangzhou? They just got 6-0 this week after we were talking about how good they looked with their new additions last week. Their matches seem to be over so fast. It's hard to pull. Like, I mean, getting 3-0'd by Shanghai with new additions, fine. I get that. But the 3-0 to London I did not see that coming. So, I haven't watched that match in depth to comment too much on it, but, things are very in flux for Hangzhou. And I think we still really need to consider London an unknown quantity, crazy as it is to say this late in the year, but there's some makeup matches that need to happen. And it's safe to say London's going to be in most of them, because they're so far behind. But yeah, that was a very surprising result to me. Vancouver 3-0'd Boston, and then Boston went on to lose to Washington. So Boston is back to being beaten up by the bottom tier opponents in the league again. This to me is a product of the hero pools. You just look at what needs to be played and what heroes are meta right now. It just doesn't suit Boston. They're a team that doesn't have to be bad, but like their players don't have deep hero pools, and they just can't seem to like make the full transition into dive when they need to, because I still don't know what Jerry plays, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Like Color Hex is like a bottom end tracer with the ability to pop off on, I don't know, we've seen it once. So it's just very ill suited, I think, for what this meta is and what's going on, but they're done for the week. But yeah, getting beat by Washington there. Washington is still in the tournament. Let's get this out of the way. They're going to just get immediately wrecked by their opponent because they're in a very similar boat where they just don't have what it takes to really stand up and play this meta. They have no tracer player whatsoever. They signed Stitch. He's their new hit scan, and it just isn't actually a thing. Like, he's not a tracer player despite being hit scan. There was some talk about Shaq's versus Shaq's versus Striker on Tracer. I saw that on Twitter, and I was like looking into some of the stats for those guys in particular, and then I who's on the other end of these lists? Oh, it's Stitch by a country mile. Like final blows per 10, he's at 5.3. Color Hex, Corey, Soon, Leave are the ones above him, 6.4, 6.5, right? Like everybody's like a full extra final blow per 10. As far as eliminations go, very bottom of the list, it's Stitch by like a margin of 1. Like a full 1 in the average per 10. 13.6. Leave is 14.9. We go to hero damage, it's not quite so bad. He's a little bit above Carpe, but I do think damage done isn't necessarily the end all be all of tracer stats, right? It's if you're getting the kills, if you're doing those things, you're fine. But at the end of the day, when you look at the stat and who's leading it, it's Dante, it's Decay, it's Dalton's up there with his small sample size, but still nonetheless impressive. It's Shaq's, like it's the guys that are really popping off and playing their best. But to give the other side of the argument, like Stryker, who is definitely one of the best right now. It's not particularly up for debate. He's in the middle of the pack. So that's what I mean when I say it's maybe not the best indicator, with Carpe and him being a little bit of outliers.
Right.
Yaki in his bottom middle, somewhere in that list. Dets 7.3. Soon has 6.2. Dalton 6.1. Logic's 5.7. Like, there's no one close to him when he's at the bottom of these stats. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I think they're just horribly ill-equipped to play in a dive situation, and I expect that to continue into the tournament bracket for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And Death.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
The last matchup I wanted to talk about briefly was Paris over the LA Valiant. Valiant, I'm continually whelmed by you. Not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed.
Exactly whelmed.
Continually whelmed by you. I want you to just like do it or shut up. Like, I just, at the end of the day, I can't, I'm so sick of every time you win. It's we told you we were going to be good. Nobody thought we had it in us.
Right.
And then you just go out there and get your butts kicked by a struggling Paris Eternal team. Make up your mind. Be good, be bad. I don't even care. Just pick one and stop being both at the exact same time. Like, if you want people to respect you, earn it.
Right.
And then give us crap for not respecting you. But like, don't continue to not earn our respect and then demand it and call us out for not giving it to you when you've never earned it.
Right.
Single performances randomly winning games that we maybe predicted you to lose doesn't prove that you're a great team. Okay, calm down.
No one likes to be whelmed.
Yes, I'm whelmed. Speaking of well, this isn't whelmed, underwhelmed. We called for a match of the week, Blevins.
Yes, we did.
We didn't get it.
We did not.
What's up, Philly? You got 3-0. You got
old bad Philly's back again.
You got smoked by the San Francisco Shock. It was brutal. They were hot swapping DPS players into the support line. Moth was only in 50% of the time. Super didn't touch the stage, and you got wrecked. It was your front line. They stunk. I talk about how Sato's a little overhyped a lot. I still give him a little flack. Go watch this match if you want to see why. Smurf and Choi Hyo Bin took them to task. It was brutal. Man, it really makes me question every other team, right? Like, we talk about like who's the top teams. This match made me like Shanghai less. I'll get there. Hold on. I'll feed you baby birds. If Philly is like the Shanghai of the NA bracket, right? And then San Francisco is just off on their own, right? They're the defending champions. You've got to do it. You got to like lose or something. You've got to prove you're not that team anymore. Like, they earned that right to be kind of on their own.
Right.
If Philly falls this far short and dominates everybody else, and I feel like Philly has had a more dominant run through the NA bracket than Shanghai's had through the Asia bracket.
Right.
Part of that is how often the Asia bracket plays against each other. You play against somebody, even if they're better than you that close, it's going to be closer. But like, nobody is on San Francisco's level until you actually show up and beat them. And we're not going to get to see that from Shanghai until the very end. But man, I just have no hope that anybody's even on this level with San Francisco anymore. I'm completely converted to the Church of Krusty. If I'm a team in this league and I'm like looking for a head coach, I'm hiring anybody that's underneath Krusty in that organization and bringing them in. Because even if you fail,
pony it up.
Just buy Krusty.
Yeah, pony it up.
I mean, that's how San Francisco did it. They just bought him from cheapo Boston, and that was it. But San Francisco's not going to be cheapo about this. But man, it's just crazy to me, the level of difference here. And these are mostly players, we've seen and we know where they came from, right? Like Moth just was plucked off Toronto Esports and brought into the Overwatch League and was turned into the best main support in the league. Yep. They lose the MVP from last year. Don't skip a beat. I mean, like, comments aside about whether or not he deserved it or not is another conversation. Right. He was in there. They had like 3-4 players that you could have put up in a thing. They're benching Violet now, right? Like, they just don't have to care anymore. Like, they just have so much talent. They kind of seem to make it themselves. And you just have to bow down and kiss the ring of Krusty at this point, because it doesn't matter what pieces you give him to work with. Ans. Listen, Ans is not the end all be all, like, hit scan god that he looks like when he plays for this team. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that he is. But I think when you join a team that's this well run, right, and you're just, hey, all I need to do is come in and do my job. My job is to pick Widowmaker, click some heads, and I've got the best tanks and I've got the best supports, and they're keeping everybody off of me. They're giving me all the room I need, and I just get to, you know what I mean? We talk a lot about being in a position to succeed, and that's a coach's job to put these players, and we see signings come in. I had no faith in Ons to like even touch the stage. Like, why would you, right? You just have too many other people. They don't care. They can just plug him in. They can make it work, and he'll dominate, and it'll be fine. Why? Because he's coached by Krusty, because Krusty makes the game plans. Krusty tells everybody what to do, and it's just going to work. The amount of faith those players have to have in that man at this point, like, must be astronomical. It's almost got to be terrifying to be on the team at the end of the season after he talked about how you have to change things up, like things have to be different. Because like then you're just, am I the one that's going to get traded off to obscurity to never be able to beat my old team ever again? That's really what it feels like is going on. Yeah, San Francisco they've got the Bill Belichick, they've got the Vince Lombardi. Like, let's name the trophy after Krusty. I'm in. I'm down. He's won it once. I don't care. I'm already here. Right? Like, let's go. Let's do it. He's basically earned it in my mind at this point.
I was going to actually bring up the Patriots because it's like, and again, many of you know I know very few things about football, but you watch a mid to low table team play, their quarterback gets the snap, and it's like they're a lot of times if they have a bad offensive line, they're just like struggling, right? Like there's sack potential at all times, they're rushed, they have to. You watch the Patriots, and it's just like Tom Brady's just like snaps the ball, and it's just like he's in a Cadillac. He's waiting. He's sipping his champagne, even though he probably doesn't drink alcohol because he's a psychopath. He's drinking his non-strawberry. He's drinking his non-strawberry sparkling water with the fizz removed. He doesn't drink regular water. It's sparkling water, but the fizz is removed. I don't know why I'm making up this weird lore, but he's got so much time. It's just like, and then of course, if you give a quarterback the most amount of time to actually execute the plays, and there's no pressure, there's very little pressure comparatively. Yeah, he's gonna overperform, and like it trickles down. Like you start with like an amazing offensive line, and then you get a quarterback who has all this time in the world, and they're obviously good, and they're throwing to receive. It's like it all comes together. But
see, what's great to me is you've been able to glean that from what minimal you've seen of the New England Patriots. Here's the kicker, okay? Tom Brady's been the only adequate member of that offense for the last 3 years. Their offensive line has sucked. Their wide receivers have been terrible. It's just there's Tom Brady, who's super good, and then there's Bill Belichick being a literal mastermind. This is why it drives me so nuts that they're cheating, filthy, rotten scumbags, right? It's because they're also head and shoulders greats, truly phenomenally great at their craft. I don't want to ever say those words out loud, but I'm also not going to lie about it either.
Right.
They really, and that's why to me the cheating is so abhorrent, right? Yeah. If you're bad and you're just trying to do right by, and you're just desperate and looking for, you almost get it, right? It's not, it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, if you're a thief but you're stealing bread to eat, you get it. If you're
right, there's a moral dilemma there,
Right.
But when you're that good and do it, you're a scumbag. And I hate it. But so this is that situation to me, right? I don't think their main tanks are the best in the world, but they get that kind of a performance from them because there is some really top end, high end talent on the roster, and they're just crafted, and their plan and their game plan, everything is so meticulously well done that you don't get to expose their weaknesses because they've already covered them up and shored them up through game plans and just general team cohesion and things like that. So can't speak glowingly enough about how good San Francisco is right now. And since I don't like the 3 wins being added to team schedules in the tournaments, I think it's nice that there's not a snowball's chance in hell any other team's going to get 3 wins.
Right, so it's basically not adding 3 wins.
So it's less of a problem because there's only 1 and 2 wins being added to records occasionally,
right?
Which is nice because San Francisco is going to be in first place tournaments or no.
Right. Yeah, I think if people were unsure about crusty in the program at San Francisco Shock. I mean, they lost, air quotes, their best player or their MVP player at the very least, and just couldn't have mattered less.
No.
Just
and I low-key, when he left, I go, oh, okay. Like it won't affect them, right? Because they've still got a better tracer player than him in the wings. He left and he was important, but like outside of maybe a top tier Zarya player, and I don't know that Choi Hyobin's not that. I just haven't seen it because Sinatra was doing it. That's like the only thing they might be missing. So when you lose a DPS and that creates a weakness in your off tank position, maybe it's a pretty solid spot.
Yeah, you're probably all right. Okay, we've alluded to it. We've talked about it somewhat. Let's move in to the Summer Showdown Brackets.
Oh, let's break it.
Matches will start on Friday this week, so make sure you don't miss those if you're looking to catch them live. How do we want to do this, Death? Do we want to just do like both do Asia and then both do NA? Do you want to do both do both?
Your brackets suck on both regions. So
hey. Okay, we're very close on most of the bracket, and then I picked a couple of upsets.
You've got some thonkers in there for sure.
You got to pick a couple of thonkers. It's very rare that the brackets will play out how you expect them.
Do you?
Okay, let's go match by match.
We'll go match by match through the first 2 rounds, and then maybe mine are, I think, at least a little.
Let's go with yours because let's just preface this. We know that I picked NY to win Asia, so we can go through your Asia, because it's going to happen.
At bare minimum, we'll do that. Yes.
Okay.
You also don't have San Francisco winning NA. Spoiler alert. So that to me is the only really truly egregious thing going on there. But
it's gonna happen. I got faith.
For the spoilers. We just saw it. We just saw the matchup.
Exactly. That makes it even more. That's gonna make it even greater when I predict it correctly.
Easiest 5-0 of Philly's life. Okay. First who do we got?
We've got LA Valiant versus Toronto Defiant.
I did 20 minutes on how bad Toronto is. So
can't
I think we both have
can't pick them. Yeah.
It breaks my heart. I'll wear my jersey. I'll start screaming if it happens. I'll write a letter of apologies to anybody from the Toronto Defiant organization I can find on Twitter. I only make that promise because I'll never have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next, LA Gladiators versus the Washington Justice. I think we both have LA here.
We do. Washington still has Stitch.
Yeah. All right. Here, next up, we've got a little bit of a flip. We've got Florida versus Houston again. You've got Houston. I've got Florida.
I had a weird hunch that they, practiced the tiebreaker match this time around. No, in all seriousness, I think the ability to pick the maps will favor Houston a little bit here. They're very map dependent. They always have been. I don't know if it's the players that seems to be continuing. I mean, they look so transformed in the last couple of weeks. It's hard to pin their past on them too much and lean on that. But all things considered, when it's that close, I think picking them gave them some incentive. I think there's a couple things that maybe either balance the scales a little more or tilt them slightly in Houston's favor this way. I'm calling for this to be another really good go the distance kind of a match. For sure. So it can absolutely go either direction. I was pretty torn on it, and I just decided to let my heart break the tie and went with Houston here. To be perfectly honest with you. But it'll all, I think, come down to the support lines. Can Houston get the support line ironed out and figured out? If they need the Genji, can they maybe find a way to get a little more out of Genji than they got this past weekend, or just continue to not need it? It was like Dante's Tracer versus Yaki's Genji a lot of the time. Florida really only used the Yaki Tracer on map 5. So we'll see. I think we might get some adaptations to comps as well as they look at the tape. And I don't know. Very, very close. This is, again, to me, match of the week. Right? We just saw it. It was just great. Nothing's changing. Same non-hero pool, same patch. run it back. Let's go.
Yeah.
Do it again.
I like it. I definitely don't fault you for the flip here. All right, the last round, the last match in the first round of the NA region is Paris Eternal versus Dallas Fuel. And I believe, oh no, okay, you picked Paris, I picked Dallas here.
I do. I'm a little nervous that Paris, like, again, like, feels fit to like bench Sparkle at times and play Soon. I've not been a Soon fan for quite some time. I think that's a detriment. It's a pretty big problem. They have their tank issues as well. But I haven't seen Decay in a while, and I'm not sure that they're just going to get to, like, this isn't Toronto that they're playing against, right? They have to go against the team with some serious talent. And seeing Eggsy back, he's been a little more up and down than he was initially straight out of the gate, but I think that's what comes from such a long time off with his health problems, whatever he was dealing with exactly. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was like back problems or something, but yeah, I don't know. I've got a feeling it could go the other way, right? Like if Dallas is fielding Decay and has Doha, there's a lot of room for both of them to flex really hard on their absolute best heroes in this meta right now. If I knew Decay was in, I think I would have picked Dallas here, but until I see that, I've just got to assume they're going to have some pretty significant problems when they don't play him. So yeah, give me Paris for now.
Yeah, again, I don't hate the flip here. I think it certainly could go either way. I don't have a lot of faith in Dallas. They did get the big 3-0, but it was against our
coin. Are we doing coin?
We can do coin. Well, we can do coin, but we're going to use your bracket for reference.
Okay, with all the coin flips. Yeah. All right, great. Go Houston. Yeah, all right, so that wraps up the first round here.
Okay, so that's first round. Now we're just going to shift over to your bracket or do we want to do first round of, let's do whole NA and then whole Asia bracket.
Okay, yeah, we'll carry through NA.
Okay, so we'll shift over to your bracket. So you've got San Francisco versus LA Valiant. This is
another one where actually though they're going to be picking their opponents again, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the first seed San Francisco Shock, I had picking their opponent. This one was a little tough. They could have picked either of the LA teams. They could have picked Houston, or they could have picked Paris. Yep. I just feel like with the Valiant coming off of kind of that soft loss last week, that they kind of stood out to me as somebody that maybe San Francisco would want to flex on a little bit. They kind of want to put down hype trains, right? Like they want to derail hype trains. And the Valiant are constantly a self-fueled hype train, whether they deserve to be or not.
Right.
And I think San Francisco, again, it's in the state, so they've kind of got that like Netgear weird champ bracket thing they do. And competition they do. So I think there's some extra fun of being inside the California Cup region for that. So it was between the two LA teams for me. And I think San Fran would want to flex on the Valiant a little more.
Yeah.
If they're picking for the weakest team, I would guess they think that's Paris or Houston, so they could easily make that selection as well. But yeah, I don't know. I tried to get in the mind of Super, and that gave me a headache, so I just decided to pick the Valiant.
Yeah, makes sense. And then of course, I mean, San Francisco is picking. You're picking San Francisco to beat LA here.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be close. Yeah, it's going to be brutal. Okay, no matter who they pick up before.
True. So the next match that you have is Vancouver picking the LA Gladiators here.
I think this is a weirdness of the bracket, right? Because the 2 seed should pick next. So why don't we jump to Atlanta?
Okay, so you have Atlanta picking the Paris Eternal.
I do. I have them picking Paris, and I have that because I was trying to identify what would be the weakest team, and that to me is the Ben Best Winston or No Smite Winston led Paris Eternal with their propensity to play soon. And yeah, I just think they stand out as a team with some weaknesses that they can exploit. Also, Atlanta did put out Edison and Erster this past week. I don't remember exactly for how long, but at least in some capacity that was the case. So despite Baby Bay's excellent copy pasta tweet, I think he owes Sideshow a smooch at this point, since they took his advice and fielded the roster Sideshow on it in the end. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm feeling more confident in Atlanta since they're starting to show the ability to check out the correct DPS pairing on their
Yep.
team a little bit. So, yeah, I had them picking Paris again, a bit of a long shot.
Yep. Okay,
Who knows
so
what
then the next pick would be
Philly, right? Yeah,
Philly.
they're the
Yes,
three.
yes, Philly, and you had Philly picking Houston here.
Houston, yeah. Despite taking out the Gladiators recently, I don't think that eliminates the early part of the year from all the teams'
Right.
minds. I think they would still be perceived to be the weakest of the three remaining or two remaining options that are here between them and the Gladiators.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I and Philly is very likely to win this one. Though Houston does keep getting better. Didn't Philly lost to Florida? I don't know. This doesn't have to go this way, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm picking Philly because I think that's the most obvious or the most likely outcome. But certainly upset potential as Houston continues to grow. The meta seems to fit them a little bit.
Mhm.
Philly will be fine from a DPS perspective, obviously, but like Sato Winston, there's been issues with it. It got really exploited.
Mhm.
And I think, yeah, there's a roadmap out there now for how to dismantle the Philadelphia Fusion. Let's see if teams can learn from it and put it into action.
Yep, but not picking it.
They've got to do it. Yeah,
Right.
I'll give Philly the benefit of the doubt. They've
Yep.
clearly earned that.
Yep. And then Vancouver would then be left with the LA Gladiators.
Yeah. Why does Vancouver? I don't care. Listen, if you still think this tournament structure is perfect, I've got to point out to you that the Vancouver Titans are the 4 seed in this bracket. Okay,
Yeah.
that's mind blowing to me. Yeah, the Gladiators are the remaining team, and they're going to crush them because Vancouver not actually good.
Yep. All right, so your top 4 for NA is San Francisco versus LA, Philly versus Atlanta. San Francisco is playing against a team that is not a bizarro world, equally talented but evil version of themselves. So you've got San Francisco winning.
They'll have all their players on their main roles instead of flexing onto off roles.
Right.
So yeah, San Francisco easy win.
And then Philly versus Atlanta, you've got Philly getting the dub.
Yeah, they're not going to play Erster for the whole time, right? They're Atlanta, so that's not going to happen. Yeah, listen, Philly is I think clearly the favorite to leave the other side of the bracket. If they're lucky enough to be on the opposite end of San Francisco, they should be able to make it into the finals here. They've been flexing on all the other teams outside of San Francisco in the NA region for a while now. So yeah, I think Philly should be the favorites to beat LA for sure.
All right, so that means a San Francisco Shock versus Philadelphia Fusion finals, which I also had, by the way.
Yes, you did.
And who do
it's
you
a
have?
shame that it won't be at all entertaining, much like the match this past week was. Right. And San Francisco should clean that up.
I've got the upset, by the way.
You do. You're crazy.
I would love it so much that I picked it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you in spirit, but my brain doesn't let me say silly things like that. So
my brain doesn't let me not say silly things. Okay, so if we are going off of Death Blow's NA bracket, we've got a San Francisco versus Philadelphia finals with San Francisco taking it home. I think that's probably... I think this is... You've got a pretty, what I would say, common... I think a lot of people would... Yeah, it's pretty boring. I think most people would... This is probably one of the more common brackets that gets picked up. I hope that they put out stats, by the way. One thing we wanted to mention was, like, this is cool that they actually put this out, and it's, like, official on the Overwatch League website, and they're actually, like, promoting it and tweeting it out, and, like, hey, share your brackets and do this. Like, this is the fun... These are the little fun things that we've been talking about since the beginning of Overwatch. And, like, it's just a little thing that you can do that it's literally just picking teams, and it's fun. And
they could have just done this like so long ago. This could have been a thing for stage playoffs. It could have like helped so much with the regular league format.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, at least we're getting it now.
We got it now. No need to complain. Okay, so for the Asia region, Shanghai gets a bye into the second round because they are the number 1 seed. And then we've got London Spitfire versus Seoul Dynasty Death. Who do you got?
Man, like who are London? I really don't know exactly what to do with this, but I do have some confidence in what Seoul is. And I think at the end of the day, despite the off double main tank, no off tank weirdness that they're doing there, I do have at least more confidence in them to I don't know. I just have some idea of what they are, and that to
Right.
me means a lot. So I'll be picking Seoul, but again, this could be anybody's game here because I'm very confused about what London is. We just saw a significant shift in the meta game. London stood up and did what they could in the limited amount of play time that anybody had in the meta. So you've got to take them seriously and really look at them going into this match. But sheer star power on Seoul tells me they should be the favorites, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think Seoul's the favorites in a lot of matches. They just choose to not be when they don't want to be for whatever reason.
Fair.
All right, Guangzhou Charge versus Chengdu Hunters, and I mean we talked about it before. Chengdu is just not. They're a little bit behind a lot of these teams. So, picking Guangzhou over Chengdu here, and then
I hope Nero's back, but it's not going to change whether or not this is a contest. I don't think.
Yep. And then NYXL versus Hangzhou Spark. Hangzhou has been on the down. Has been on the down lately.
Yeah, I mean this week they were on the up last week, but again, very significant meta shift. So you've got to kind of. I hate using small sample sizes. I hate using recency bias. But if there's ever a time when you almost need to use them, it's right now.
It's 1 week later, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we've got to assume New York will continue to evolve their strategies a little bit, continue to get a little closer to optimal play styles. And yeah, I'm kind of a fan of the theory behind some of what they're doing. So I think that's, I'll give them the nod here in this one.
Yep. Okay, so in the top 4, you've got Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah, Shanghai. Not that confident in Seoul, right? Like they're still Seoul, and this is no longer an unknown quantity in London. So, give me Shanghai. They're the San Francisco of this region.
And then we've both got the rematch between Guangzhou and NY. I of course am picking NY, but you've actually got Guangzhou here, Death.
I do. We just saw it, so it's not crazy to think it gets run back. But again, it was so close. It was so haymakery, and I think it could continue that way this weekend coming up if we do get this matchup because of the loser picks map situation, right? Like teams that they're going to be going to somewhere where they're really, really comfortable to somewhere where they're not, and it's going to be back and forth. So I think we could see that exact kind of a thing play out. Either team could absolutely win it. I mean, I've been nice enough to New York through their rough 5-loss regular season so far that it's just hard to hang on as a fan of them. I know Blevins is struggling, but no New York merch anywhere. That's on you. I don't see it even in the background. You've officially set it all on fire now at this point, huh?
Yep, it's all gone.
Yeah, there's nothing New York anywhere on your screen. That's a shame. Okay.
Yep, I burned it all. Sorry.
Burned it. I had a bonfire this weekend. That's what happens. But yeah, no, New York is obviously more than talented enough to take this. It's like flipping the Houston versus Florida matchup, right? I'm just not flipping this one. But it's going to be super close. Should be very, very fun. I hope we get this matchup because it would be a blast.
Yep. Okay, so in your finals, Death, for Asia region, Shanghai Dragons versus Guangzhou Charge. And I mean, I don't think it's quite a San Francisco Shock situation, but it's close.
They're beatable. It's just not likely, and not something I'll be predicting.
Right.
Certainly not without Nero back for Guangzhou.
Yep.
But man, what a show of confidence it is from us to have Guangzhou, and really from themselves. Like they're just doing it, right? It's not even like we're predicting it, where they're doing it already without Nero, with significant gaps in hero pools and things they don't have somebody able to play, that doesn't normally play it, filling in. I'm talking about like May roles and stuff like that, and even probably the Genji would be more Nero, though I think they're a little better equipped in that department than they are in some others. That they're just able to keep rolling and keep stacking wins and having a really, really strong regular season here. But that's not going to be enough for Shanghai, who probably has 2 different rosters they could field that I would think would be favored in this matchup.
Okay, so you've got Shanghai taking it down in the Asia region. I, of course, picked NY. But so San Francisco and Shanghai, Death, are your 2 winners for the Summer Showdown that you have picked. let us know what you guys are picking as well. You can tweet at us on Twitter at High Noon Podcast or join the Discord. Post your brackets. Let's see them.
I'll make a channel right now.
There we go. We're making a bracket posting channel. Let's see them, talk about them. It's fun. I really do want to commend the Overwatch League for putting this out, because I mean, again, it's just a little thing, but it means something. It really does. So, Jeff, any last minute stuff that we want to talk about before we get going here?
No, other than I've officially made the channel now. It was the thing I was going to do a minute ago. Now it's done. So there is a home for that. Join us in the Discord. Have some fun. Post your bracket. We'll make fun of them. You can make fun of ours. It'll be great.
Yes.
Look forward to it.
It will be great. So thank you, everyone, for watching. We really do appreciate it. Special thanks again to Bungee Bamboo, our executive producer level patron over at patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. You can head over there right now and support the show if you'd like, or you can just join the Discord, discord.me/High Noon Podcast. We're High Noon Podcast pretty much everywhere on the internet: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you can find podcasts, and even some places that you usually can't find podcasts. We're there. We're everywhere. High Noon Podcast. Make sure you join us there. We do the show live every Monday at sometimes lately it's been around 5 o'clock Eastern to twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast as well. So join there if you would like. But that is going to be it for the show. Again, thank you everyone for watching. For Deathblow, I'm the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.